Engagement rate is one of those metrics that's all over Google Analytics, but what does it actually mean? What can it tell you? Today, I'm going to show you exactly how I use this one metric to spot issues that could be costing you conversions. For those who don't know me, hi, I'm Dana DiTommaso, and I run Kickpoint, a digital marketing agency focused on analytics and strategy. I've been working with GA4 since it launched, and I find that engagement rate is one of the most underutilized diagnostic tools in the platform. In this video, I'm going to show you what engagement rate really measures and why it matters, how I use it as my first traffic quality check, the specific patterns that I look for when diagnosing problems, and what to do when you find low engagement. All right, so let me show you what engagement rate actually is. In GA4, engagement rate measures the percentage of sessions where users were actively engaged with your website. So here's how GA4 determines if a session is engaged. It needs to meet just one of these three criteria. The visitor had your site as their active tab for at least 10 seconds, they viewed 2 or more pages, or they recorded a key event. That's what GA4 calls conversions. So if you have 100 sessions and 65 of them meet at least one of those criteria, your engagement rate will be 65%. In my experience, this is way more useful than Universal Analytics' old bounce rate because it measures actual engagement with your content. The 10-second threshold may not sound like much, but honestly, it's basically a lifetime on the internet. One critical thing I always tell people, engagement rate is a session metric. That means you can't use it meaningfully for individual pages, only when you're looking at landing pages or traffic sources. I see people try to use it at the page level all the time, and GA4 will show you numbers, but they don't mean what you think they mean. Now, let me show you why I start with engagement rate when I'm diagnosing traffic problems. I found that engagement rate tells you more about traffic quality in one number than what you can sometimes get from an entire dashboard. When I see low engagement rate from a specific traffic source, it immediately tells me that one of two things is happening. Either you're attracting the wrong audience, that's an intent problem, or your page experience isn't meeting visitor expectations, that's an experience problem. Either way, you've got something fixable. For example, we were working with a B2B client recently who had 22% engagement from LinkedIn ads, but 65% from organic. That huge gap told me immediately we needed to investigate what was happening with their LinkedIn traffic. Turns out they were targeting their ads really broadly, resulting in clicks from people who weren't actually a good fit for what they were selling. People were hitting that back button really quickly, resulting in that poor engagement rate. A pattern I often see is that organic traffic has good to great engagement rates, but traffic from some random third-party display ad network has extremely low engagement, like 5% to 10%. That's almost always bot traffic. Finding that early saves you from wasting time optimizing a landing page when the real problem is that you're paying for bots. Now let me show you where to find this information in your own GA4 account. First, I'm going to go to Reports, and then I'll look under Acquisition, and then Traffic Acquisition. You might also have slightly different report names, just look for Traffic Acquisition. And here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking for the engagement rate, which I can scroll over and see over here, and I'm comparing it against the average. What I'm looking for here is the engagement rate for my top 5 to 10 sources, and I'm looking for differences of 15 percentage points or more between sources. The average is 55.8, so anything that's significantly lower or higher would stand out to me. For example, you can see that direct has a lower than average engagement rate. I know that this is because this particular client has CallRail implemented, and that shows up as direct, and it doesn't have a real session. There's a whole explanation as to why, so I'm okay with this low engagement rate for direct. But what's a good engagement rate is this Google Business Profile. In this case, that's exactly what we want, since people coming to the site via Google Business Profiles should be very engaged. When I'm looking at these kinds of traffic sources and engagement rates, I'm looking at 3 different things. Is this traffic source new or established? What's the most popular landing page for this source? And what's the intended audience? Then I'll head over to landing pages and check that out separately. You can see here the landing pages report. And then I'm going to scroll down, and here's the engagement rate for these different landing pages. Now, as we can see here, again, we're looking for significantly high or lower engagement rate compared to the average. You can see there's this not set traffic here. Again, this is because of CallRail, so I can ignore this. But then we can see, for example, the value packages has a great engagement rate, which is good. They're clicking through to view more information. But then the book an appointment actually has a low engagement rate. Now, what we suspect is happening here, and we found this through Microsoft Clarity, is that people are viewing this on desktop and then they're actually picking up the phone and calling as opposed to tapping on a phone number. They're not using a call tracking number, for example. So that's something that we can try to fix in order to better track this particular engagement rate. But these are the kinds of things that you would find by checking out the engagement rate by your various landing pages. Otherwise, these landing pages are all pretty close to the average, so we're pretty happy with how they're looking. This part takes some attention, but let me show you why it's worth it. When you find these patterns, you can make really targeted fixes instead of just guessing. Okay, so you found a traffic source or landing page with low engagement. Here's my troubleshooting process. First, I verify the data is actually reflecting what's happening. I check are key events configured, because recording a key event makes a session engaged, and if you don't have any key events set up, you're missing part of the picture. Has someone changed the 10-second timer setting? That can really mess things up. Or do you have enough data in the segment that you're looking at? You really need at minimum 100 sessions before you can make any decisions. Or last of all, what time range are you looking at? Did something happen that would cause a change in the engagement rate? Once I've eliminated those factors, I investigate why the engagement rate is low. There's a few different possible reasons that engagement rate might not be what you want it to be. If you have a wrong audience problem, you'll likely see both a low engagement rate and a low conversion rate. This can indicate a mismatch between keyword intent and page content, or perhaps you're looking at a new traffic source with consistently low engagement. That means you just aren't targeting the right audience. If you have a bad experience problem, you might see low engagement now, but if you go back in time, it used to be higher historically, maybe with a different version of the website. Another example would be mobile-specific low engagement, but desktop is fine. And of course, look for slow loading times or confusing navigation. Based on what I find, I recommend different fixes. If it's the wrong audience, you might need to refine your targeting or even create different content. If it's due to bad experience, focus on page speed, user experience, and making your value proposition clearer. I go through more fixes in my post, and if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn, you can find that link in the description. Before we wrap this up, I want to remind you that engagement rate is a diagnostic tool, not just a performance metric. When I see low engagement, I don't panic, I investigate. What is the real reason behind that poor engagement rate? And remember, we're looking for progress, not perfection. Just start somewhere. I'd love to know from you. Have you used engagement rate to diagnose traffic problems? What patterns are you seeing? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Remember, you won't transform your website performance overnight. Instead, you'll get there one diagnostic at a time.